Let's continue here tonight. Tshwane Mayor Randall Williams maintains his innocence regarding a proposal by an Australian company, Kratos Consortium. This was to lease land from the city near two power stations where gas turbines would be built for alternative energy. An investigation has found that Williams didn't flout the Municipal Finance Management Act, but rather that he has a case to answer to. This is in particular in relation to being seen to instruct officials to endorse this bid. The Tshwane Mayor joins us tonight. Mr. Williams, good evening to you. Thanks for your time. So firstly, let's speak about the fact that this investigation by and large has cleared you of wrongdoing.
Thank you very much. Good evening to you. Yes, this was an investigation that was launched by the coalition partners through an agreement, and two advocates were then appointed to investigate what happened concerning the Kratos Consortium. And what they found was there was in fact no tender. So there was no procurement process in place, and that what we received was merely an investment proposal. And what ultimately came to council after 1 year after we've received the investment proposal was a council report to put out on public participation a potential lease of vacant land around the power stations.
The one thing you have not been able to shake off, however, is that voice recording that has been doing the rounds. And it really is part of why then the investigation has also found that you still have a case to answer to in as far as having instructed municipal officials to go ahead and endorse the deal.
Yes, that's quite unfortunate. There was unfortunately a mistake made in our corporate system of delegations where there were two contradictory delegations of power mentioned. The one was where it wrongly stated that the Municipal Finance Management Act reserves the power for the city manager to consider unsolicited bids. In fact, the Municipal Finance Management Act reserves that power to the municipality. So the municipality has the right to consider unsolicited bids, and what normally happens when a power is reserved for a municipality, that power in terms, we've got unfortunately another piece of legislation that says whenever a power is reserved for a municipality, that power will be exercised by council, not the city manager or municipal manager. And what happened in the same system of delegations, the council actually delegated the power to me. So I've got that in writing. So there's a difference of opinion between my own party, the DA, and one of our coalition partners. And therefore, we then decided to refer the matter to the Speaker for further investigation to see whether I breached the Councillor Code of Conduct.
Of course, part of what you're doing is that, at least as has been described by your coalition partners, as you may well be aware of now, is that you are unduly influencing these officials, to go ahead and support this bid, which they say was very wrong of you. When you listen back to those recordings and you see what has been said and part of the fallout as a result of it, do you regret how you have managed this entire debacle?
Actually, that's your assessment of what the investigative report says is not correct. The investigative report found there was no undue influence on my part, and all coalition partners accepted the report. So that is not an issue. So there was no undue influence in terms of the findings of the investigative report.
Yes, but it found that you had a case to answer to.
No, what it found that I have a case to answer,
yes.
It said when I gave an instruction...
Yes, that's the issue I'm talking about.
Can I just explain to you? When it found that I gave an instruction to officials, they found that I did not have the delegated power. So because I did not have the delegated power, they said that was a breach of the councillor's code of conduct. And as I just said to you previously, I actually do have the power and I've got it in writing.
So why would the coalition partners then be fighting you on this if you say that they had delegated that power to you?
Because that was the finding of the investigative report. My evidence of the fact that I've got the delegated powers in writing was then submitted, unfortunately, after the report was concluded. And that's why they said, well, in that case, we will refer it to the Speaker to assess whether you, in fact, have the delegated power. And if I do have the delegated power, it then means there was no breach of the councillor's code of conduct. So
effectively you are saying that the coalition partners are chasing you for an issue that they know is basically moot, because if you're saying that, you know, the evidence of these powers being delegated to you exists in writing, then what is the point of all of this?
Well, people want to follow processes, and I'm quite happy to follow processes. They just don't have to call a meeting and hear what I have to say. If they want to follow legal processes, and the process is set out, that an investigation, if you've breached the councillor's code of conduct, the Speaker then runs with an investigation, not political parties. Mm-hmm. So I'm quite happy to follow that process.
I don't know if you've seen the statement by Action SA, but they're pretty convinced that you may have violated the council ethic code here.
Well, the councillor code of conduct, as I said, I actually have the delegated powers. So there's a difference of opinion between my party and Action SA, and the Speaker will then determine who's correct.
Ultimately, where do you think this is going to lead the city to?
Well, as we also stated in the same media briefing, that we're certainly building on our coalition relations. We've learned a lot over the last year. We've looked at where we've gone wrong, where we can strengthen the coalition. Mm-hmm. So that statement was released.
I'm going to go back to the question that I'd asked you earlier about whether or not you have regrets about that instruction that you had issued to the officials that has resulted in this debacle.
Look, the instruction was, at the time, on the tape, that I said to process the unsolicited bid that we have received, to process it legally. That I clearly says, and that we have to follow all legal processes. However, the city manager then never processed it as an unsolicited bid. And what was subsequently found, and you will, if you read the report eventually, I don't know when it will be released, you will see that the advocates refer to it as a purported unsolicited bid. So it was not, in fact, they found in the investigative report that there was never an unsolicited bid before the municipality. What it in fact was a proposal, not an unsolicited bid. So that is also part of the finding of the advocates. And in fact, what happened, if you look at since July 2021 and what eventually was tabled in council, there was no unsolicited bid process followed. The process that was followed by the city manager over a period of 1 year was that the city received an investment proposal.
And that's part of why the report has cleared you of wrongdoing, Mr. Williams. I'm asking specifically on this issue that the Speaker still now needs to go and investigate. It has clearly created ambiguity that there is, at least as far as those in council are concerned as well, a clear interpretation of your behavior and whether or not it was within the ambit of your role as a mayor to have behaved in that way. And I'm asking you if you have any regrets about how you managed that situation, given what you know now, given this fallout that you're also having to deal with.
Well, I have absolutely no regrets, because I have the delegated powers, and I acted within my powers. And council validly delegated those powers to me.
What are the lessons that you've learned from this?
Well, the lessons that we've learned is managing coalitions are not easy. It's a difficult process to be in a coalition with 6 partners. And each partner have their own idea of how coalitions should be run, how the city should be governed. You also have, unfortunately, where the local caucus is not allowed to take decisions on their own. You have interference from national leaders, unfortunately. So we're all learning how to behave in coalitions. You saw what happened in Ekurhuleni. You see what's happening in Joburg. In many smaller coalitions, the coalitions have failed. This is a new phenomenon for South Africa. I mean, this is something Europe has been struggling with for many, many decades, and countries like Italy still can't get it right. They have a new government every 6 months. So this is something we're on a very steep learning curve in South Africa. The way forward for us to govern South Africa, even from the national and provincial level, will be through coalition governments. And this is now the time where we have to learn. If you go left, sorry, that's the wrong way to go. You have to turn right in a certain instance. So we are learning and we are adapting.
Randall Williams, we'll leave it there for tonight. And as you heard, a part of that investigation, at least in as far as it relates to his influence, this is the accusation that he instructed senior officials to endorse Kratos, the deal that was before council, that matter is still going to be investigated by the Speaker.